If you have always felt different, out of sync with the world around you, it may not be a flaw at all. It may be a sign that your soul has already traveled many paths. There are people who grow quieter as they age, who observe life more deeply, and who speak less but see more. Carl Jung believed they were not lost or misplaced. He believed they were entering one of the most powerful stages of awakening in their lives. Many people only realize later in life that the feeling of being different appeared very early on, not because they were smarter, more talented, or more special than others, but because something in them moved to a slightly different rhythm. When others felt energized by conversations about success, status, or money, they felt empty. When others argued or competed, they felt the urge to withdraw. At the time, they had no language to explain this experience. They simply wondered, is something wrong with me? Many of them tried to fit in. They learned when to smile, what to say, how to participate in conversations they didn't truly care about. They played the role of being normal very well. But at night, when they were alone, the sense of not belonging would quietly return. Not dramatically, not violently, just a soft, lingering sadness that stretched across years. Carl Jung suggested that this was not weakness or dysfunction. It was the mark of someone with a deep inner life, someone who could never remain on the surface of things forever. When a child or young person feels different early on, it is often because they perceive life beyond words, beyond appearances. That sense of not belonging is not a curse. It is often the first sign of a very unique path toward maturity. Along with this feeling of difference, many people discover early on that crowds exhaust them faster than others. Loud environments, overlapping voices, emotional intensity, conflicting energies don't just feel unpleasant, they drain them deeply. Not because they are fragile, but because they feel too much. They walk into a room and immediately sense the tension even before anyone speaks. They sit beside a loved one who is hurting, and that pain seeps into them as if it were their own. After a family gathering or social event, others feel fine. But they need hours, sometimes days, of solitude to recover their energy. Many grew up being labeled as too sensitive, easily affected, or overthinking. Because no one explained that this was a form of profound emotional attunement, they learned to blame themselves. They tried to harden their hearts, to appear indifferent. But the more they hid this sensitivity, the more exhausted they became. Carl Jung saw this not as a flaw, but as a finely tuned nervous system, one that allows a person to sense the deeper layers of life. When misunderstood, sensitivity becomes a burden. But when understood, it becomes a compass. People like this are not made for constant noise, because they need space to keep their inner world intact. Over time, they learn to love solitude, not because they dislike people, and not because they have been wounded too deeply, but because only in quiet do they feel fully themselves. When the house is silent, when the phone is set aside, it feels as though they have stepped out of a noisy world and returned to the most familiar place of all, within themselves. For them, being alone does not mean emptiness. It is when thoughts settle, emotions reorganize, and what truly matters begins to surface. They can sit for long periods without doing anything special, simply observing the flow of their thoughts, noticing subtle shifts in their inner state. In those moments, clarity emerges, what they need, what they must protect, and who they need to let go of. Many people around them do not understand this. They assume solitude is a sign of sadness or withdrawal. But for deep souls, solitude is essential, like oxygen. Jung believed that only when a person dares to stay with themselves can they hear their true inner voice, the one that cannot be heard amid the noise and demands of the external world. As they become accustomed to listening inwardly, they gradually lose interest in following the crowd. Trends that come and go, opinions that change with the seasons, no longer hold the same pull. Not because they are rigid or slow to adapt, but because they need time to feel whether something truly aligns with them. They move more slowly, speak less, and act only when it feels consistent with their inner values. This way of living is often misunderstood. Some see them as distant or unapproachable. Others assume they are arrogant or unwilling to connect. But the truth is, they have tried to live within those molds and discovered the cost was too great. They no longer want to live to be liked. They want to live without betraying themselves. Jung believed that when a person begins living in alignment with their true nature, they must accept that not everyone will understand them. This is not a loss, it is the price of inner freedom. Such individuals do not seek validation from the outside world, because their worth is not measured by trends or approval, but by the integrity of their inner life. What troubles them is not the passage of time, but the fear that life may become shallow. They are not overly concerned with gray hair or changes in the body, because they know age is only surface level. What they truly fear is waking up one day and realizing they are living on autopilot, speaking words that do not come from the heart, repeating patterns that no longer carry meaning. As people move deeper into the later stages of life, their longing for depth becomes unmistakable. They seek conversations that carry meaning, relationships that truly touch the heart, and quiet moments spacious enough to feel life unfolding. A simple, heartfelt meal or a quiet afternoon watching sunlight move across a room can hold far greater value for them than anything outwardly dazzling or impressive. Carl Jung believed that human beings only truly mature when they turn inward and learn to live within their inner world. Souls like these do not fear aging because they understand that what drains a person is not the passing of years, but living too long without ever touching one's true self. In such individuals, wisdom does not appear as loud opinions or the need to prove intelligence. It emerges quietly, almost naturally, as if they are simply remembering something that has always been there. When faced with complex situations, they rarely react impulsively. They pause, observe, feel, and then offer insights that are brief yet strikingly precise. Others are often surprised, unsure where this understanding came from, yet it is undeniably clear. This kind of wisdom does not grow from books or from experiences displayed for recognition, but from a deep connection with one's inner life. They hear what is left unsaid, sense subtle emotional shifts in people and situations. As a result, their guidance often carries a healing quality, never forceful, never moralizing, simply arriving at exactly the right moment. Jung spoke of a form of understanding rooted in the collective unconscious, a place where human beings touch the deepest layers of shared experience. For souls like these, wisdom is not something to be chased. It gradually reveals itself once they become quiet enough to listen inwardly. There is also a gentle but persistent pull toward nature and silence, not because they wish to withdraw from people, but because amid the constant noise of modern life, these spaces allow them to return to a more original rhythm of being. A morning walk beneath trees, sitting beside still water, or simply listening to the wind, these seemingly small moments provide profound nourishment. Nature asks nothing of them. There are no roles to play, no expectations, no comparisons, no relentless urgency to keep up. Its slow pace allows their nervous system to rest, emotions to settle, and scattered thoughts to reorganize themselves. Many notice that after spending time in such stillness, they return clearer, steadier, and more grounded in their decisions. Through a Jungian lens, this is a reconnection with healthy instinct, the remembrance that human beings are not only social identities, but part of a larger, deeper, and ancient rhythm of life. At their core, there is a quiet but unwavering choice, not to seek comfort, but to seek truth. Even when truth stings, even when it dismantles long-held beliefs, they are willing to face it. They do not need reassurance, meant only to soothe. What they seek instead is an honest understanding of what is truly unfolding, both within themselves and in the world around them. Many people at this stage of life have grown used to avoiding the truth in order to keep the peace, preserve appearances, or maintain a sense of safety. But for souls like these, avoidance becomes more exhausting than pain itself. They would rather face an uncomfortable truth than continue living inside a beautiful but false story. And because of this, they tend to be the ones who ask the deeper questions, who look directly at what is happening, and who are willing to admit when something is no longer true. From a Jungian perspective, this is a sign of consciousness maturing. When a person no longer needs to be rescued from the outside and is strong enough to take responsibility for their inner life, they move into a different level of development. At that level, truth, however sharp, becomes the very thing that sets them free. The love they carry is not loud or performative, and it does not need to prove itself to the world. It is the kind of love that allows others to feel seen, to finally exhale after years of holding themselves together. In their presence, people are not pulled into dependency, but gently invited back toward themselves. They do not love to possess, nor do they love to fill an inner void. Having already walked through solitude and faced their own darkness, they do not need anyone to stay in order to feel safe. Their love is like a soft lamp in the night, never forcing anyone to look, but offering clarity to those who choose to. People like this often do not speak in excessive sweetness. Healing flows instead through the way they listen without judgment, the way they are present without intrusion. Around them, others feel safe enough to be honest about their fears, about the fragile parts they have hidden for so long. And within that quiet sense of safety, healing begins to take place. In Jungian terms, this is love that has moved beyond the ego. It does not seek to own or control, but to illuminate, awaken, and allow each person to walk their own path. If something in these words has gently touched you, trust that it is not an accident. You may carry that same depth within you, a sensitivity, a quiet wisdom that has never quite been given a name. Thank you for staying, for listening, and for reflecting inward. If you wish to continue these deeper conversations, where the soul is understood rather than pushed, consider subscribing and staying with us. The journey back to oneself is always gentler when we do not walk it alone.